Here are some regular schmegular things that happen in the dance world that would send most people into a coma. First of all, can we just talk about audition process and the actual physical examinations that go into some ballet schools? So Russian schools are notorious for this. However, my school did the same thing, just not to the same extent and not to the same depth, I want to say. So unpopular opinion, I think that these exams are actually really useful, not to the degree of some exams that are so invasive, but the school that I went to had us go in our leotard and tights, and the physiotherapist at the school would actually test our limits, our boundaries, our range of motion, just to detect whether or not we had proper or ideal hips for ballet, therefore we wouldn't get injured. Because if you think about it, if you're going to a school which is going to be dancing 6 days a week, up to like 40 hours a week, and like a lot of dance classes, you want to ensure that the dancers that are going to be enrolling in these schools aren't going to injure themselves right away because their bodies have certain limitations. I personally think some of the exams are a little bit too invasive, just personally, but I think they are necessary in a professional ballet school, again, where you are going to be dancing many more hours than any other place in the world. Usually, like I mentioned, they check your end range of motion, they check how many rises you can do, they check whether you have the kind of strength necessary for that many hours of ballet, as well as point work. Another regular schmegular thing that happens in the dance world is being cut from an audition despite the fact that you spent hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars to be there, not just in the audition fee itself, but in the plane ticket, in your stay. Some auditions will literally cut people after bar, which means you've only been there for less than half an hour, and they'll say, okay, you can go home now, we're not interested in you, pretty much, even though you may have flown there, you may have stayed over there, you may have prepared a whole video for them to see beforehand of you already. This is a reason I don't care for open call auditions personally. I just think it's a lot of money down the drain, and these companies don't really need that money. I mean, they get so much money generated from ticket sales already. If you don't already have a career in the industry, if you're just fresh starting out, you probably don't have the funds to be throwing at auditions every few weekends. But they are a great experience, and I think it gives companies a really good range of who to choose from. Number 3 has to be having to learn an entire length ballet in one night before the actual rehearsal or show even. My first job, I was lucky enough to have a rehearsal with one of the ballet mistresses, and they taught the two of us. It was basically like a semi-private when we were learning the choreography, but we did have to learn it ahead of time because they expected us to already know it going in. Again, luckily it was like a semi-private, so we weren't doing a rehearsal with the entire company, so if we did mess up, it wasn't like we were making the entire company start over again. And in another instance, a girl actually got injured during rehearsal, and I had to go and step in and then do the show the next night, so I pretty much had less than 24 hours to learn her part. Luckily, it wasn't too bad, but it was a huge transition because I was on the opposite end of the stage, it was a demi-soloist role, and yeah, it was stressful. But an experience.